Gabby Petito death is a complete mystery right now. How in the world did this happen? Who did it? And what is being investigated right now? Let's dive into the video because I have a lot of well, not a whole lot of what to say in this video, but hopefully me making this video will draw out some kind of clues that would may sound like something very accurate to what the evidence would say. So let's take it back to the body cam footage. So the 911 call came from a shop called Moonflower. You imagine, I imagine in the name, it would be a shop that sells flowers. What would they be doing in there? I have no idea. But the 911 call came from that Moonflower place. And the mail that came on the 911 call, the 911 call, was a male, and he said he wanted to report a domestic dispute. And he said that the gentleman was slapping the girl, and the cop was saying, slapping her? So that's how the whole thing started. Now, as Gabby Petito was crying in the van, the officer asked, "Oh, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" And then Gabby Petito gets out of the car, explains everything, and officers talked about Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito. But there's going back and forth between officers. One of them goes back and forth talking to Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. Now, at the end of all of this, the cops decide to not press charges against the two. And these two were told to separate from each other. And I have to say that this is not what policemen should really be doing. If there's like a domestic violent situation between two of the people slapping each other and that stuff, then there should be some kind of domestic violence charges pushed against the two. You don't separate the two for the night. Gabby Petito, that she hit Brian Laundrie first. So she should actually have got put in jail for domestic violence charges. And the same goes for Brian Laundrie. Brian Laundrie grabbed her by the chin and slapped her. And what did the police do? They knew nothing about it. They just separated them for the night. That's not proper. That's not being a proper policeman right there. Gabby admit she hit him first. Brian Laundrie hit her, like grabbed her by the chin and slapped her, I would imagine. And there should have been charges pressed against the two. So, here we are. Here we are, and we're getting so close. Maybe not even so close, but maybe close to finding answers on how did Gabby Petito die, and why did Brian Laundrie go out there and die? Now, there's a source. Some YouTube channel or some person who posts on YouTube. Name is Tamara. And she said that there was some person that fished up what they were expecting would be a fish. But no, instead of what he or she actually got was a gun. Does that signify something right there? Does that, like, ring a bell right there? That possibly Brian Laundrie went out there in the Florida Natural Reserve and killed himself because he may have murdered multiple women, not just Gabby Petito? Maybe. It's possible. However, those other women could have been murdered by, people other than Brian Laundrie. So, if you look at the Gabby Petito's homicide that was done, and you also look at the coroner who said that she died by strangulation, then you should have a good picture to know that it might have been Brian Laundrie. Like I said, he's a narcissist, so he could have been capable of doing that. Who knows? Another sign that may show that is that Gabby Petito could have been strangled in her own van. And she could have been put to death in her own van, being strangled, and she may have gotten thrown out of that van behind there and probably been tossed out there somewhere in that field in Grand Teton, like miles away from the van, and could have been, Brian Laundrie could have tossed the body out of there when Gabby was strangled to death, and her body could have been just out there in the field where almost nobody could find it. Like, let me just add on to that, like, the Grand Teton and the Yellowstone National Park is very, very huge. So it's hard to actually find stuff there without a map. But yeah, Gabby Petito's body was out there in the field, and she laid there as a dead victim from being domestically strangled. domestic violence. Let me just say that and make it clear. It was a domestic violence, but strangling somebody is just one form of domestic violence. Her body was laying out there. She was found dead. And now here's another interesting piece of information they got. I was watching News Nation Now, Gabby's final days, and the reporter said he was in the area and he was retracing everything that Gabby Petito did during her last few days or last day. He visited the Grand Teton National Park. He visited Mary Piglet's, where Brian Laundrie has been eating at. Her and Gabby Petito. Now, what he said was these two were gonna walk out of the restaurant without paying for their meal. And in the end, there's a waiter that came out there, or, yeah, a waiter, and they paid, like, outside of Mary Piglet's. And there was Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito were. Could you imagine their relationship not going so well? A narcissist would complain about money. Believe me. So if it was a money issue that we were fighting over, then obviously that's not good. So probably one key reason why they didn't pay for their meal was because they were having a bad argument at Mary Piglet's, and that was upsetting Gabby way too much that she forgot to pay the bill. That could have been one thing. But the reporter for News Nation Now went into Mary Piglet's, and he wanted to ask questions, and the person that he was interviewing didn't like being on camera, so that wasn't much help. He goes to the police station, and he asks questions. Did the police do their job on handling the Gabby Petito situation? Obviously, I have to say no to that. Like I said, the police just separated them for the night. That isn't proper. Well, that's not doing your job properly, I would say, as a policeman. Just, if you have a domestic dispute emergency call that you have to respond to, I imagine you wouldn't just not press, like, refuse to press physical assault charges against people who commit this kind of domestic violence. I'm sure you would haul them off to jail if there was a report saying that you were doing something that was against the law. But no, they separate them. They separate them from the night. So with that, now the police, the cops that handle the situation, I would imagine they would have done it the way that they should have done it. So there's going to be questions being asked toward these policemen why they didn't handle the situation properly between Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. And I imagine the question would be, do you guys have any idea how to handle a domestic violence situation and you work on the side of law enforcement? I'm sure they would actually get into trouble because they have not pushed domestic violence charges against Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. They probably would be fired from their job because they weren't doing it right. And that's where the policemen that handled the situation between Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie are going to be questioned. And they may not be able to, if this is how they would respond to domestic violence situations, then obviously they should not be on the side of law enforcement, period. But that's for a judge to determine, or a policeman. And who knows, maybe they couldn't have pressed those kind of charges out there. It just doesn't really seem fair. It seems like all 50 states, no matter where the domestic violence situation is taking place, there should be consequences. Not just in some states you just separate people for the night because you just can't by order of some law of your state or wherever that happens, you can't push charges against domestic violence situations or that stuff. It should be done in all 50 states. It should be that if you react in some violent way towards somebody and that stuff, then you should be taken to jail for that. Anyway, the cops are going to be questioned and they're going to be asked why they haven't handled the situation right between Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. And hopefully there's going to be answers that come out of this. Because if those cops had have handled it differently and pushed charges against them, none of this other stuff would have happened. If they knew ahead of time that if Brian Laundrie, if they already had the knowledge to know that Brian Laundrie, all that body language that he was showing because he was scared and that stuff, then that shouldn't have been enough for the police to know that, okay, you know what, this guy is just, acting like he's innocent and that stuff, and we just don't really tolerate that. That 911 call that we got was that the man was slapping the girl and that stuff, and Brian Laundrie was trying to hide that. He's hiding it from police. And he was acting like, my fiance and I, we got in a bit of a fight, and she just doesn't even know how to calm down and that stuff. And clearly, it doesn't have anything to do with do with me at all and then stuff. I parked on the side of the curb. I apologize for that and then stuff. If I did go over the speed limit and stuff, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for summoning you over to the edge of the curb. I'm really sorry and then stuff. And acting like how a narcissist would. Just trying to act like he's an innocent person, that stuff. And I'm pretty sure that the cops got fooled by him and decided not push charges against Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito, who knows what Brian Laundrie did to fool the police over there in Utah, parked along the curb, just doing what Brian Laundrie, or a narcissist, I should say, likes doing. If this was another situation where somebody got fooled from a narcissist, like, there should be, like, when police actually confront a person who commits physical assault on somebody, then the police should actually know or have, like, some kind of teaching class so that they can actually identify the behavior of narcissistic people. That way, that the police have clues on learning that they can't be fooled by narcissistic behavior. If that's the kind of step that needs to be taken, then that's what the police probably would do. How to recognize narcissistic behavior. And that is where it's what should be done. Now, if they take a class on how to recognize narcissism and when dealing with those kind of people and arresting narcissists, then that's what should happen. Because the situation with Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie wouldn't have happened in the first place if those cops knew how to do their job the correct way and not just separate them for the night. And the police officer was talking to Gabby Petito about his own, how his wife gets mad at him and, that stuff. And, just, it was like a group chat on the edge of the curb. It's just, like, really, really sick. I mean, I don't know how you can watch that body cam footage and not get angry over the results of these policemen separating Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie for the night. If there was a domestic violence situation that did happen, and yes, it did happen, because that phone call that came from Moonflower, where the call happened, then obviously the cops should have arrested both of them. And this whole thing wouldn't have not happened if they'd done their job right. Now, Brian Laundrie, like I said, may have strangled Gabby Petito in her van and probably took her out far away into a field and left her body there dead. And probably gone out there in the Florida Reserve like weeks and weeks and weeks later and gone out there to kill himself with a gun. Like I said, this boy or whoever fished up a gun, and if that's true, then Brian Laundrie may have gone out there, killed himself with a gun, and then left his body out there out there in the Florida Natural Reserve to just, rot there. And like I said, with the notebook and the backpack that the Laundrie family found, that gave me a sign that this is indeed Brian Laundrie's body that is out there at the Florida Natural Reserve. Now what we need is answers from the notebook that he wrote in. If his plans were to murder his fiancée and go into hiding and actually kill himself, if that is written in the notebook, then that would be the answer that the police would need to actually figure out how Gabby Petito actually died. And if it would be the hands of Brian Laundrie, I'm sure that would be the case because he is a narcissist. And hopefully we can get everybody to get down to this whole entire homicide mystery and actually know that Brian Laundrie had in fact done what he did. He probably murdered Gabby Petito, and he probably killed himself out there in the Florida Natural Reserve because he knew he's probably going to get the death penalty. This is Charles Morris. Have a good day, and feel free to comment, like, and subscribe to the channel or under this video, and ring the bell to get notified for these videos. And hopefully this video gave further clues to what to expect out of Brian Laundrie. And hopefully we can get why the police didn't handle the Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie situation correctly. And hopefully there are going to be answers that are going to start coming out here. We've been searching for so long to get these. Now might be the time that we might get the answers we are looking for. This is Charles Morris. Have a good day. I will see you all in the next video. Have a good day.